Anyone who does a front lat spread and doesn't get the pecs to crunch up in front of them, done with you. No time for you. Your pecs should be full and striated. I'm done looking at you. Move along. And if can irritate the shit out of me when people don't listen to me. I go, pull the lat spread right out. Get your pecs up. Look at my chest through my shirt. What looks better? That or that? I mean, I'm on the webcam with a T-shirt on, and you can tell it looks better. When people don't listen to me, and I tell them, get the pecs up, and they don't do it, I think, okay, you're now ignoring excellent advice from me. I'm done giving you advice.
I'm so proud of you right now, Scott.
I have no sympathy for these people.
Thank you.
No sympathy for these people. Like, look at a picture of Dorian. Look at a picture of Ronnie. Their pecs are all completely striated and flexed in the front lat spread. Look at Bumstead. You want to look classic? You think letting your pecs hang relaxed is going to look better? No, it doesn't. Look at Bumstead. His pecs are up in front of him. It's 101. Like, stop it. Stop doing shit that makes you look worse. Thank you.
I want Ron to have a child so bad.
Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Of course, I'm Ron. We got Dusty. We got Scott, the producer.
The producer.
We got Mutant on board. Remember, IamMutant.com. Get your ISO Surge. Get your gear. Everyone should be on the gear. And remember, Patreon for the Think Big Bodybuilding Media Network. And keep a producer homed. That's what we're all about here. You know, we don't want Scott to ever be in a good enough position that he can stop this job, but we just want to make sure that he has to continue to do it forever. So
it has the means, you know what I mean?
Perfect amount. Enough. The same approach the government takes to the average blue collar worker.
just enough.
Yeah.
Don't want them to ever get ahead. Just keep making shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Speaking of keeping you home, Scott, I have to bring this up. Jesse, our Super Chat champion of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Did his first show this weekend.
I thought you were going to tell me he lost his house.
Yeah.
Well, no, he lost that a long time ago. How do you think he can afford Scott? That's why Scott has a house. No, so he did his first show. True Novice, 1.
Nice.
Novice, 1. Lightweight, 1.
Yes.
Nice.
And he went 3. But I love this, though. You guys will love this because you understand the kind of person he is. He goes, I go, damn, 3 out of 3 in the classes. And he goes, well, 2 out of 3. And I'm like, they were all first. He goes, True Novice, it was just me, so it don't count.
Yeah. It's good attitude.
I was like, I just love that you told me that. Like, because that's what I would do. I'd be like, well, technically.
I would have been like, I won the lightweight.
But they let him do the middleweight. I don't know why they let him do that, but they did. And he ended up taking 4th out of like 7 guys. I'm like,
nice.
You're giving up like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Nicely done. So
that's a story of conditioning.
Weekend.
I know that's a story of conditioning right there. You have to be in really good shape to hang like that when you're 40 pounds light.
Yeah, exactly. So it was super fun. The whole prep was awesome. And so for the guy who keeps Scott homed, congratulations.
And thank you to everybody from Patreon and everybody who's done super chats and stuff. That's been huge. I have a big question for Ron, though, before we get this thing rolling. So we're just doing like the first names now. It used to be like really official. We went from
I was wondering if you noticed that. I was wondering.
You're like, hey, I'm Ron. I'm Ron. Yeah. This is Dusty.
Yeah. I don't know. You guys have me feeling so casual this morning. I just went with it.
Not even a big Ron, you know?
There's a little bit of me that feels ridiculous saying my full name. Like a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, you know, the next step is to add like a fake addition, like
Doctor. Yeah.
I wanted to just toss the third on the end of it just for fun.
Right. Like so you say your full name, like, you don't walk up to someone, I'm Ron Partlow. Like, you don't, it's just like a little bit weird.
Yeah. Hi, I'm IFBB Pro Big Ron Partlow. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm IFBB Pro Big Ron Partlow, Esquire.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You did go full viewers, do you like the full casual or not?
Yeah, I just feel like the viewers have become kind of our little family, you know. We're all sitting around the campfire.
They're putting up with us. Initially they got like we drew them in. We used to give them like a nice introduction with some music and some graphics, and now we're down to this.
Slowly dialed it back. Just see if they notice the withdrawing of effort. Just like a parent who just slowly stops asking you where you've been or what you're doing. Yeah.
That's all we're doing. This is great. Yeah. Won't be long. We just start. And we have no topic, and we just BS for an hour and then hang up.
Yeah, and then
we'll say goodbye. Just click.
We'll say something like, "Well, it's better that way because it's very relaxed." We'll we'll justify the lack of
justify the laziness.
yeah, for sure.
We got some heat on the last episode. We got some heat about
what did I do this time?
Derek Lunsford and him not being as good, or really, Derek wasn't even brought up. We just said that nobody is as good as Ronnie was. That was basically the argument. And as a result, somebody brought up Lunsford, and this was the comment. Dusty might be numb. People literally gasped when Derek stepped on stage. Everybody was talking about it.
And then the next comment.
The next comment nailed everything I have to say. Listen,
obviously
it's not a shot on Derek.
Not that harsh, but
I think that people don't realize that. Like, it's not a shot on Derek because I thought Derek was mind-boggling compared to himself.
Just in period, he was awesome.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the jump was enormous.
Hack at all. He deserved. I mean, if he would have won, I wouldn't have been like, oh my gosh. I mean, It was a coin flip. But I think what maybe would be missed by somebody who hasn't at the previous shows is when people gasped when Ronnie came out in 2003 or Jay came out in 2009, the show ended. We didn't need to see anyone else. And again, that's not a shot at anyone here, and it's also a sign of how much things have leveled up. And I'm not a throwback like, oh, it was better back then. Because that's really not what I believe. But I think that the top guy was. Right.
But I mean, if you want to go as a whole, I think, you pull back that like late 90s, early 2000s era. And then there was a gap where kind of Phil ran away with things by himself. And now it's tight again, kind of like it was back then. And I actually prefer from that standpoint. I love going to the Olympia knowing I don't know who's going to win.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's extra exciting. Like
Phil years got kind of boring to me, honestly.
Well, you remember when Phil was called out for one call out and sent back?
Yeah.
Alone? I mean, I even thought as a fan that was a mistake of Steve, even though he was right. You literally just gave the answer. Not that we didn't all know, but you don't want to actually like tell him. I felt like Steve turned around and goes, Phil's winning, and we're trying to figure out second.
They're better at that now. And they kind of give the illusion, even if it's not even close, they give that illusion of like, these guys are really battling it out,
They move around the call outs and the whole thing.
Yeah.
I believe it was Aceto who reminded us, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Chris reminded us that the first time that they ever did a final call out with two guys was when Jay and Ronnie were battling.
In 01, right?
Was it 01? Yeah.
01,
I think he said that was the first time. Because I don't remember ever seeing Dorian called out with one guy. Like it was never like Dorian and Kevin to the line. That never happened. It was always like, okay, we're done with first call out, second call out. And that was it. And maybe they take another look at first call out. But they never did the whole drama thing. And I don't know if it was intentional with Ronnie and Jay or just because it was so close, but that started it, and I believe, and they can hear the keyboards typing now if I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
Which is good. That generates engagement. So maybe it's good to be wrong. But strategy we don't take enough. That's a bold strategy.
Every time I speak, there's a chance I'm wrong. So we're always taking that strategy.
Yeah. But I really like it. I love that sort of, maybe top two is even a little low. Maybe you got to call out the final three like they usually do, just to make it exciting. Like that top three at the O or at the Arnold. I mean, was awesome. Remember, They had that top 3 call out. So, that sort of stuff is great for the fans. It's a lot of fun, but,
who I don't hear saying that Derek is like way better than Ronnie is Derek. Like, I feel like if we were to talk to him and we were to sit down, he'd be pretty humble, you know what I mean, about where he's at. He's literally one of the best bodybuilders in the world. But I don't know. I don't know him well, but I don't picture him being like, yeah, I'm better than Ronnie, or I'm getting close. It's not that we're like old guys, because I'm with you. I agree with you guys. But I do think there's a perspective of like, oh, these old guys don't really appreciate what's going on with bodybuilding anymore. Like, this is what's happening now.
Yeah. So in a sense, like, technically, to me, Derek is like unbelievably complete.
Yeah.
Like, we even joked about, Ronnie didn't really have calves. Like, he didn't have the calves, and he did like a few things, but he just made up for it with like this overwhelming, unbelievable mass and conditioning that just was too much for everything else to occur.
And factor. Like, just you see him on stage.
Yeah.
There was that it factor with Ronnie where he just came out and was like, what's up? I'm here to take the trophy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're like, yep, you are. Here you go.
If you just look at size of body parts, like if you just go through like, okay, how big is their back? How big are their arms? How big are the delts in relation to the arms? How full are the legs? How much space is in the armpits when they stand front relaxed? Like, you just start looking at that, and like guys like Derek are at the extreme end of fulfilling all of those requirements, like more than any bodybuilders have been. Like there's not a lot of guys that I mean, the way Derek looks now, have you guys seen the current shit that he's putting out? We're like, oh, I mean, there's other guys doing it too. You got Samson and you got Andrew Jacked, and you got, like, I'm really excited about this next year or two of bodybuilding. We could see things get to the point where even us old guys are saying like, oh, this might be the next new level. Like, because it takes a lot to shake up. It takes a lot to get a bunch of old guys to agree that we're at a new level.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's so much romance with the other level. Right? And I'm just saying it might be exciting. You might be able to put pictures side by side soon and go, yeah, okay, we're in a new generation now officially,
It is already hard to compare the old school to now because the waists are so different, and the aesthetic is different because of that. Like before we were like, yeah, your waist just gets blown out when you're that big. And now we're like, nope, doesn't have to be,
Yeah. That's one of the factors too, I mean, someone asked me on my feed the other day, who do you think deserved an Olympia more during Dorian's reign, Kevin or Nasser?
Kevin.
Yeah. And I said Kevin because he placed second twice and he won 2 Arnolds while Dorian was Mr. Olympia. And
Nasser, he was the winningest pro ever prior to Dexter.
Yeah. So, and Nasser only got second once, and he didn't win an Arnold while Dorian was Mr. Olympia. So that was my answer. But, I look at the crop now, like this top 5 we're about to see in a couple of months. I'm really excited because, anytime the bar goes up a notch, I mean, it doesn't go up a notch all the time, right? It can take a decade to go up a notch. It can take longer. And, it's exciting to be there when it happens, if it happens. And I mean, this could be one of the Olympias where we're like, okay, this is like, we're really, really into it, the next round of craziness here. Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. For sure. I think what I would like to see, because, and like I said, what got missed is, when Ronnie's reign ended, bodybuilding did step back, even with Jay. I love Jay, but Jay's best doesn't beat Ronnie's best, in my opinion, not even close. I don't think Phil's does either, although it is close.
As time ticks on, it starts to.
Phil is that good, so I would definitely be. There's a time machine I'd love to see as Phil's best against Ronnie's, because I don't think the gap is as wide as I used to think it was.
Right. But, especially by today's standards.
Yeah, but down to the current state, I think what's cool is I would love to see a top 4 or 5 where I'm like, I have no idea what they're going to do.
I would love to see a top
awesome.
5.
Like if they were divided by a couple of points, 3 guys, where judges are disagreeing, because let's be honest, it gets a little old looking at score sheets that go 5 points, 10, 15. I'm like, what? So you all agreed? Because I'm sorry, but like some of these shows are so tight. I'm like, how did that even happen? I can't even agree. Like Ron and I couldn't agree straight across the board with the top 5 at the Olympia. And when we see a lot of bodybuilding the same, so that's the thing that I think is exciting. We might reach a point in the next year or so. Like I was sitting here in my head going, okay, well then right now, who's the top 5 of the Olympia if you had to guess? And I have 9 names that are in the top 5.
Yeah. It's a real, we have a really exciting bottleneck hitting us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, we saw those years where like one guy would step up.
Yeah.
Like, there'd be one guy that would be like, oh, wow, that one dude, we've seen that before. But this could be the year where we're like, okay, so these 5 guys all leveled up this year,
Well, think about it. Derek, Samson, and Andrew all have already. We haven't seen Derek on stage or Samson, but they have. And Andrew's getting better, from what I understand from Chris, like by the minute.
Yeah,
he needs to though too. To be fair, like if we just compared them to what we've seen last, I don't think Andrew can hang with Samson or Derek. When I saw him at like the Arnold, so he had like that room to still fill out.
Oh, he's got plenty of room to grow, but he's so freakish
in maturity too, and even like posing maturity. Like there were so many things that like, but those are all things that could be improved. And with him, it sounds like he's improving quickly. Could he do that by the time that the Olympia happens? I could definitely see that.
So I'll tell you something that happened to me last week. Aceto called me, because he's got a client of his that's doing our 212 show.
Okay.
He's coming up to do the 212 show.
When's your show?
It's September 30th, October 1st is our weekend where we have both our shows, and the 212 Pro show is on the Saturday.
Nice.
So he's got his guy coming up. Noel, the guy from Spain, he got second at the Dallas.
Yeah.
He got beat by Keon. Yeah, so he's coming up. So Aceto just called me to be like, hey, like just asking some questions, like what's the hotel like, and like, that sort of thing. Like, should I send him up? And I was like, yeah, send him up. So I started talking to him, and he goes, hey, you remember, because Andrew Judd just won the Dallas, right? And he said, hey, do you remember when I called you 5 days out from the Olympia and I told you that Roden was going to win? And then I was right. And I go, yeah. And he goes, Andrew Jack's going to win the Olympia this year.
Dang.
And I was like, huh. And he goes, mark my words, he's going to win. There's no stopping him. The rate of improvement is obscene. Just wait. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Chris told me that he's going to fly out to LA every second weekend or every weekend from now to the Olympia to spend like 48 hours with Andrew every week.
If he's that invested.
He said, my wife's not too happy about it, but I'm going to do it.
About $1 for every time I heard that sentence or said it.
And I just can't help but think back to 2018 when like Phil was just a runaway. He had disposed of Kai Green so many times that I didn't even think it was close. I never thought Kai could beat Phil, ever. Not once in one single pose did I think Kai ever beat Phil. There were people that were Kai Green fanatics, and I thought he was unbelievably good. And I just thought Phil beat him straight up every shot, every time. And Phil was just a runaway. And Roden had been there before, and Roden had been top 5 before, and like all that stuff. And when Chris called me and said, Roden's going to win the Olympia this weekend, I was like, okay. And then he sent me pictures, and I was like, well, he looks really good, but hotel pictures, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Phil probably looks just as good. Like, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
And then 5 days later, I was like, holy shit. Like Chris knew he was going to win and fully believed it. And so when he calls me and says, hey, Andrew's going to win the Olympia, I think, these are either the ramblings of a crazy old lunatic or
50-50.
which it could be. It's been a few years,
He hangs out with us, so come on now.
Yeah, you know. So I thought, okay, Chris, maybe he's hitting his expiration date here with his predictions. but also, like, shit, that's like bold shit that he doesn't go out of his way to say often, you know.
Yeah.
And so that really piqued my interest. And another thing that I thought was great was you guys see Tyler Mannion putting out these videos now where he's talking specifically about why they make decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is so good, and I encourage everyone who's competing to watch those videos. Go find those Tyler Mannion videos and watch them, because I've been telling people for years, when they call side tricep, do a side tricep.
Yeah.
I know everyone likes the little thing Roden did with the leg, which Sean Ray was doing in the 80s, so it's not new.
Yeah.
But that's a pose. That's a great pose. You can use it in your routine. You can maybe flash it to the judges if you want.
You're not.
But they're asking for a side tricep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, so many people ignore me. Oh, Ron doesn't know what he's talking about. Crazy old guy. Side tricep. I'll hit my ab thigh tricep because it's so beautiful.
Ron doesn't.
Everyone thinks they look so great in their side tricep ab shot. And it's like, no, it's called a side tricep. That's what they want. And then Tyler Mannion goes on and goes, Andrew Jack loses this pose because he doesn't do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the rude awakening that every single one of these people needs to hear. The judges don't give a shit which pose you like. Yeah. They want a side tricep. That's what you're supposed to hit. And they're going to literally mark you down now. If two guys are hitting a side tricep, one guy's got his side leg, the other guy's got his quad out, guess what? Doesn't matter how good you look, you lose your pose. So wake up. Listen to these videos. They're very important. And you know, I felt super vindicated when I saw that. I was like, oh, gee, yeah, I'm just going to sip my coffee.
You know, one of the things confuses people about that though is this, and this was something that somebody told me at one point, because when I was just getting started, Ron, I came to somebody that had experience like you, and I was like, explain to me each of the spots. So you've got the posing round, you've got the symmetry round, you got the muscularity round. I go, how does that work? And he goes, well, it's very simple. He goes, the biggest, rippedest guy wins all 3 rounds. And I went, what? And he goes, listen, being honest with you, yes, they all have their place. But at the end of the day, when you're Andrew Jacked, you win against Hunter Labrada. And my point is that's where the confusion comes into play, because then a guy who's not Andrew Jacked loses 3 poses that he might have had a shot with, gets second place and goes, I still think I could have beat that guy. And that's where the confusion comes into play, because you're looking up. For example, everyone knows that, like, Ronnie wasn't the greatest poser, but he was just so big it didn't matter. And then all of a sudden people aren't paying attention to posing, but they don't look like Ronnie.
Yeah. Oh, God, so true.
So that's the part where I think things get lost, because I saw those two. And it's funny you said the side tricep, because I was like, what a great way to say it. He's like, we want to see the side leg. And he even said, hit the side tricep correctly, hold it, and then step into that other one. And we're fine with that. We're fine with you showing us a variation if you like it, but we need to compare you and the other guy in that pose. And I think that is where the confusion runs, because people hear the rules and then they watch a freak like Andrew Jacked or like Sean Roden win anyways. And they go, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And Tyler even said, he goes, now Andrew happens to look exceptionally good in this version of the side tricep. So it's impossible to ignore the muscle density and the quality and the condition. But he's not helping himself.
Yeah.
By not doing the side leg. Right?
Which he has.
Yeah. So you put he's able to put his own obstacle up and then smash through it. and for most of the people listening out there, you do not want to put any obstacles in front of yourself on stage. You do not want to create any more hurdles for your physique to have to jump over. Trust me.
Hey, that's crazy that you guys are even talking about this, because I had a question for you, tying right in. What is your biggest, or it doesn't even have to be biggest, it sounds like we've heard one of them now, But what are your pet peeves that you see people posing? All three of us work with people, and we have to correct people on their poses when they do check-ins, and you know, we're working with people to try to get them on stage. What do you see that really irritates you? I have
two that are jumping right to the forefront immediately. Okay. The first one, and these are for beginners.
Yeah,
constantly looking down at their feet.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, your feet are there. Why do you keep looking down? They've been
why do you have to look at your legs to flex them?
Yeah. I don't get that. I've never really understood that. The reaching back, like there's a lot of touching their body to see if it's in.
Yeah. Touch the glutes.
And I'm like, why are you like, and I think some of them got it because they see a guy like hit a side chest and pull the zipper out. Or I'm like, that's a show. That's during his routine. And he's him. Don't do that. Like you're literally touching to make sure you're squeezing your glutes.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things that I see, and these are really basics, they just tell me you didn't practice. I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you look inexperienced.
Yeah. You're checking. Yeah. You're not sure. So one thing that drives me crazy is when guys set up their back shots. I don't know where this came from. Someone famous probably does it, but they go to set up the back shot and they let their back leg, they let the knee cave in and like they're trying to set their foot up, and then they crank the knee out to flex the glute.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you shouldn't have to do that. You should just be able to put your leg back and it's perfectly in position.
Right.
You should just lift your foot, drop it back, plant it, glutes, hams, calves, all flexed. I am absolutely unsympathetic to you if you can't do that. I could do that perfectly when I was 17. Okay? So get it. Secondly, why are you putting yourself in a terrible position where you look like shit for even 1 second?
Yeah.
Because when you turn your knee in, it collapses your entire lower body. And if the judges are looking at you at that split second, you look terrible. You look terrible. Do not do that. So they set their foot up, cave their knee in, twist it out again, feel their glutes, make sure their hams are tight. It's like, okay, I'm done looking at you at this point. You're wasting my time and you don't know what you're doing. That's how I feel. I can't help it. Secondly, anyone who does a front lat spread and doesn't get the pecs to crunch up in front of them, done with you. No time for you. Your pecs should be full and striated. I'm done looking at you. Move along. And it fucking irritates the shit out of me when people don't listen to me. I go, pull the lat spread right out. Get your pecs up. Look at my chest through my shirt. What looks better? That or that? I mean, I'm on the fucking webcam with a t-shirt on and you can tell it looks better. When people don't listen to me and I tell them, get the pecs up, and they don't do it, I think, okay, you're now ignoring excellent advice from me. I'm done giving you advice.
I'm so proud of you right now, Scott.
I have no sympathy for these people.
Thank you.
No sympathy for these people. Like, look at a picture of Dorian. Look at a picture of Ronnie. Their pecs are all completely striated and flexed in the front lat spread. Look at Bumstead. You want to look classic? You think letting your pecs hang relaxed is going to look better? No, it doesn't. Look at Bumstead. His pecs are up in front of him. It's 101. Like, stop it. Stop doing shit that makes you look worse. Thank you.
I want Ron to have a child so bad. Like, she comes home with a B, and I can just hear him because it starts getting going.
Yeah,
you know, and it's rolling down the hill, and so first things first, Scott. Great work, buddy.
Thank you. I've been trying. I finally.
Do I have to apologize to anyone?
No.
I feel like I have to apologize to like a whole bunch of people now.
So now that you got it rolling, I have to throw, of course, one of my I won't even call it a pet peeve because it just doesn't matter because it's not anyone that's any good doing this, or no one's corrected them. But I like when guys from the front are going to do a front lat spread, and they do the row like they do from the back. You know, row their arms backwards and then open up. And I'm like, we can't see your back. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Or the big
they do that to feel
reach.
It, I bet.
We have a running joke in our house that I can't point out, but the big reach on the side chest and then pull it up and then don't finish it. Just stay in here.
Yeah.
I'm like,
with a big gap.
yeah. I'm like, keep
Big
going,
gap, like,
keep going.
Yeah,
Bring the
I
air
hate
back.
that. I hate this side chest with there's a big. Where am I? Yeah, when
Here you
there's
go.
any space in here,
Oh, yeah.
like no, it's got to be pulled right in. Like it drives
That's
me
what gets
crazy.
me.
Like daylight's a problem. I don't want any daylight in there.
Now, why?
Yeah.
Why don't you want that, Ron?
Well, it's not finished. Like you got to lift the rib cage up. Like look at Arnold. Look at picture the greatest, most classic side chest of all time. Just pull up Arnold's side chest. There's no daylight in there.
Well, plus think about what it does to the far pec when you pull into it. Also, when you twist far enough so that you got the shoulders as wide as humanly possible.
Yes.
Coming into this, and your hips don't turn with your shoulders. Sometimes you tell guys to twist, and then all of a sudden their hips turn too, and I'm like, no. Those got to stay that way, and then you turn just from the waist up turns, and then that gets width. Same thing with the daylight between the knee and the back of the knee and the hamstring down there. That's another one. Like you have to eliminate that space.
Another thing is I hate when guys do their side chest and they stick their ass out. Pull your pelvis in underneath you. Look at Arnold. He's sitting on top of his pelvis is under him. Like he's on top of his hip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Flex Lewis.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that could be learned just by, like you said, Ron, it's small tweaks that people are not spending time with in a prep.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, the pulling the chest up, that we're not talking about, look, I've been there where I'm trying to figure out how to verbally give someone the cues to do a lat spread when they're first starting.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me because I'm like, well, you just do this. What do you mean? Like, I don't understand how can't be done. Eventually we get it and we're fine. But then once it becomes pull the chest up, that's put a string on the front of your chest and pull up.
Yeah. Lift
okay, we're done. You know what I mean? Like, very, very simple. But those things just mean that, like you said, Ron, someone gave you advice. And it's really simple. And Kenny does this, Kenny Wallach, which I love, is he'll run you through a pose and he'll have you hit it. And then he'll fix it. And he'll have you hit it again. And he screenshots both and sends them to you.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can't. It's like, I don't care what you think is better. Once you're looking at them side by side and it's a minute and a half apart, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've spoken to some judges recently, including something Tyler kind of said in one of his posts. And he said, listen, there's this obsession by classic guys where they want to make every single pose uniquely twisted.
Yeah.
And he's like, stop it. Half the time, your version of the pose looks worse than if you just did it normally.
I would say the front double is going to be like one of the biggest ones that gets
bastardized
because
everyone
pull
thinks
their
they have
chest
to,
in. Chest goes in, everything looks small, and they're out like this. Versus just show us expand that rib cage, open everything up, be as big as possible in it.
Yeah, and like I saw one guy on stage who's doing his front double, but he's like turning almost 45 degrees, so now his one lat isn't even visible.
Gone.
Yeah,
and he's like. So now you just look narrower, smaller, and your one arm is farther away from me. So now your head looks bigger than your other arm. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get what they're thinking. Like, stop trying to reinvent. Are you the genius who's going to come up with the perfect front double? Just look at what Bumstead does and do that. He's got his legs slightly offset, so they're kind of interesting. And then his upper body's just straight on, smashing you in the face with a big front double.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
like,
your
just
waist
do
look
that.
small too that way.
That's the standard. Like they literally say, whoever we choose for Mr. Olympia is the standard.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the standard. That's exactly what we want. So just do that. Mm-hmm. It's not hard.
The one I have, the one that I see, and it's always, this is a lot of new guys do this. And I thought about it because I just worked with a guy over the weekend who, to his credit, he's never posed with anybody in his life. This is his first show. And I was like, hey, let's hop on, video, do some posing. And I see this with almost everybody. The front relaxed is arguably one of the most important poses. You know what I mean? Like that's literally what
that's your introduction.
Yeah. And you can't hide anything in that shot. You know what I mean? Like you literally are just lined up there. You are completely exposed in that shot. And the thing that I always see is that guys take those arms and they don't it's not about inflating the lats for them, which is what we want to do. Instead, they just lift the arm. So
your shoulders disappear.
Yeah, your shoulders disappear, your lats disappear. And so it's hard because you know, I try to tell them just inflate the lat and then set the arm on the lat. That's what we want. But instead, exactly. And there's still like this raise that happens. But once again, I think it's a lot of pros that have shown us this. Number one, their lats are freaking huge, right? Mm-hmm. So like Branch Warren is probably like the worst perpetrator of this. His arms literally look like he was riding a motorcycle, like a big hog, you know? And his arms are just straight out to the sides. But his lats, it still worked for him because he had so much mass, you know?
There's the odd structural exception with some of this stuff. But for most people, I always say in the front relax, your hands should be hanging as low as your belt.
Yeah.
Like your waist. Like think of where your belt is. Your hands should be down around your waist. If your hands are up like by your bottom rib, you're messed up. Your front relaxed sucks.
Right.
I always use my thumb as like a reference point. I ask myself, like, where are my thumbs? How far are they from being able to actually like come in and touch my waist?
Touch you,
know?
Yeah, I've heard Tyler Mannion. Like I've had the fortune to be backstage at a bunch of pro shows in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and Tyler comes backstage and he just stands there and everyone comes up to him and he just rapid fires. He's got his sheet and he's just rapid fire and he's brutal because he's got no time to waste, right?
Yeah.
So people come up and they're like, "What can I do?" And he's like, "Number 23." He's like, "Your back is very weak and you need to learn how to do a front relax. It's not doing you any good." Next.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, perfect. This is what we need.
Right.
And I've heard him tell people, like, I've heard him say, "Your front relax is terrible. Your front relax is terrible." I've heard him say that like a bunch of times to people. And I'm like, good. These people need to hear it.
Yeah. It's how you get better.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Whew, man, that was brutal.
Well done, Scott. Scott, you may have the championship right there, and I think we bring up posing. Plus, every time you bring up posing, Ron has a new T-shirt that gets made.
Yeah,
I'm really sorry.
Like we could make these T-shirts every. Like I'm going to watch this back and figure out what shirts we have coming. You know,
we got this one.
I want you guys to know. All those examples were like 100 times that's happened to me. It's not one person or anything, like hundreds of times. Each one of those things I mentioned was like I've handled it hundreds of times. It wears me out.
Mm-hmm. It says if Ron, UC Suma, if Ron or Mutant makes a stop spreadsheet bodybuilding shirt, Kate and I will each buy 3.
It's a great. I mean, these are just great quotes right here, and I think we got to run with them.
Victoria used spreadsheet bodybuilding in her talk, by the way, because she said she loves that. She's like, I love that term, and she compared.
Did she offend everyone there?
Well, she said
that's all they do.
It's like a room full of data collectors.
Yeah. Her point was like it's either spreadsheet bodybuilding or it's bros. You know, the old school bro science or whatever. She didn't say bro science. The old school bros. She was like, what we really need to do is combine the two, you know. But yeah, she used that term, spreadsheet bodybuilding. She's probably going to keep using it.
I don't know if you guys have seen if Dante does this with you, Ron, but he'll send me like data, and he's like, "Oh look, they found out something I posted in 1992," and he sends me the link to his post. It's 2023, and he's like, "Here it is." I'm glad
22-year-old message board post.
He'll always send back, "I'm glad you guys figured this out," like as if they found it.
He loves being vindicated like a quarter of a century after he's posted it.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, Ron, you know that feeling thanks to Tyler Mannion.
Yeah, you know, it's funny too because like there was a study posted just recently about volume and like sets to failure.
Yeah,
and they found that like in your first, I can't remember how it was worded, but you had baseline where no growth occurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to get 6% hypertrophy above baseline required 4 sets to failure per week.
Right, per week.
It. To get from 6% to 8%, so 2 more percent,
like 12.
it went to 8 to 10 sets.
Yeah, really
big jumps.
And then to get to 10%, which is only 2 more percentages, it went all the way to like 16 sets.
Jesus. Mm-hmm.
So it showed that your investment return was so high in the first like 6 to 8 hard sets per week, even 10. And then it just leveled off where you got almost no return all the way to 16 sets, right? So, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. I kind of did 6 to 8 working sets for each body part my whole life.
Yeah.
So like we kind of we had a good handle on what we should be doing. Obviously there's, there's more to it, but like these sort of like Dante moments where you're like, good. This is reaffirms what we were, doing. So yeah, it's interesting to read it.
I got some listener questions here, guys. I got one actually that might tie kind of right into this from Chris. He says, hey, Scott, glad you're back in action. Got a question for It's Just Bodybuilding. After having listened to you guys on Think Big Bodybuilding, I switched to HIIT training. And after having been high volume guy for many years before, I tried the DC two-way split and found that I just can't recover in time for the next workout, especially legs. I have all screws in my head loose, though. I literally destroy myself in the gym each session. Tried to be more moderate, and I just can't. Good man. So I have been running push-pull legs. Push, which is chest, tris, and bis. Pull, back and shoulders. Legs once per week. And I feel okay for the next workout. Should I leave it that way and run it? Or am I leaving too much on the table? I'm close to 40 and not a young buck anymore.
Well, first off, close to 40 is not old because I recover fine. But anyways,
still plenty young. Still plenty young.
I'm more bothered by the idea that a bicep is a push. But anyways, that's just how my brain works.
I saw you twitch.
I think he was just, So it's chest and arms and then back and shoulders.
Yeah. And he's squeezing biceps in there, with chest.
Yeah. So, I mean, the answer to me is really simple, which is something that I don't understand where it got lost. You basically just said you were doing something that wasn't working for you, and you took what you learned from that, created something that is working for you, and are now asking permission to do what's working. Just do what's working. And I say that, and I'm not hammering him. A lot of people miss that scenario is, what's working? Like I have clients that come to me and they're like, should I switch my training? I'm like, look at their physique. I don't think so. I think we should do what we're doing. Or I'll even tell them, hey, do what you're doing. But if I see a body part that's kind of, I don't like what I'm seeing, I'm going to ask you what you're doing, and then we'll talk about it, and we will make some alterations. You know what I mean? So to me, what he just said is this is working phenomenal, and he's already a psychopath in the gym, which means he's training hard. Apply that to that training, and, I think you're going to be fine, because that if you're not recovering enough, then that's not the right thing for you.
Right.
That's good. Anything you want to add, Ron?
No, I sort of picked up on that too. Like he was asking, like, is this okay that I do this even though I'm making gains on it? You know what I mean? So if someone came to me and they said, listen, I train twice a week because I'm really busy, but every single time I train, I get stronger. And my wife says I look great naked. And everything's been good and my shoulder's feeling good. I'd be like, why are you, there's no complaining. Like, I'm sorry, you can only train twice a week. That's weird, but you're making gains. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If someone said to me they're training 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, and they put on 20 pounds of muscle in the last 6 months, I'm not going to tell them they're doing something wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's all about results. It's all about results. And I know we feel locked into what tribe do I want to be part of? And how do I want to get my gains? It's like, take them however you can get them.
Yes, trend.
Do not ask questions when it comes to gains.
Just glad they're here.
Yeah.
Man, that was such a good answer you guys had for that one. Young Lee. This is from Patreon. Both of these are from Patreon, by the way. Do you guys think more shredded glutes on stage has anything to do with the rising popularity of hip extension exercises like hip thrusts?
Nothing to do with it at all.
I would agree. My thought was that we were into the shredded glute thing. That was the popular thing since I can remember 2006 even.
Well, he said he didn't see as many shredded glutes in the 90s, but I totally disagree with that. I thought we were all I mean, I was a 90s bodybuilder, and that was like the rule. Like, you got to get your glutes ripped. Like, in fact, it was like almost overly focused on condition in some ways. Like, guys would come in really flat just to be super shredded, you know? That's how I kind of see the 90s in a lot of ways.
Do you think that's when it started, the shredded glutes thing?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, like, think about it this way. Lee Haney's era, they weren't talking about glutes. They had Rich Gaspari getting shredded. There was a couple guys getting shredded glutes. Sean Ray always had them. You know, Lee Labrada was lean. But it wasn't like Haney was showing off his glutes, and he was Mr. Olympia. But then when Dorian became Mr. Olympia, even though Dorian didn't ever talk about glutes, his glutes were always strided, like really, really strided in all of his back shots. And that was like the next standard at that size, right? And I feel like Ronnie gets credit for the strided glute craze with the parking lot lunges, but in reality, Dorian set the standard, because Dorian was like, I'm going to be the biggest and I'm going to have the most shredded glutes. So that's why I'm going to be everybody's nightmare for 6 years. and so Dorian, I think, sort of gets credit for that mass plus conditioning combo that came out of the 90s. And then Ronnie, you know, I talk about this lots. Like, people don't realize how how easily they're influenced, and how little of a difference some of these things make. Like, I never saw a single person do parking lot lunges until Ronnie's video came out. Ronnie's video comes out, all of a sudden everyone's doing parking lot lunges and front squats. Front squats were not a popular bodybuilding exercise. Like, I did not see anyone front squatting in the gym because they're awkward. You know, you can squat more weight with a bar on your back. You know, people just did hacks. But then Ronnie comes out with that unbelievable video where he's got the yellow tights and he does the 6-plate front squat.
600 pounds, yeah.
And then it kind of comes off his front delt, so he just drops it on the floor.
Yeah.
Right?
I did that at your gym once.
Yeah, yeah. So that video comes out. That video comes out, and all of a sudden, everyone's front squatting. Like, for a few years, there was like a front squat phenomenon. Like, everyone's like, I'm front squatting 4 plates. And like, this crazy front squat thing happened. And it was just completely because Ronnie did it on a video. And the parking lot lunges came out of that and everything. Like, there's been a huge amount of that. And now we see it on Instagram all the time. You know, you see one guy kind of doing the lean over squeeze, pull down. And you know what I mean? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we do just because we're influenced by seeing it. And, you know, it's a big part of what drives the trends.
I was gonna add that what really did affect the hip thrust movement is really simple. Is bikini took place, and glutes were the most important thing.
Yeah,
and wellness came in.
And then wellness came in, and glutes were the most important thing. And so what you had is a couple guys that were really smart and said, I'm the glute guy. Yeah. And they created entire workouts for glutes. Yeah. And it's funny because I was just, you know, we have this conversation now. There's a guy that's semi-local to here that's the gut specialist. And I laugh because he's an idiot. But it's a genius move. You know, I'm going to help. And it's so easy to get in people's heads. Do you ever feel bloated? Well, yeah. I could probably fix that. The fuck?
Right.
I mean, I literally see people post pictures like, look, I look so much better. And like you said, Ron, you're influenced. I'm like, girl, you posted that picture 5 weeks ago before the gut guru came in. The shit looked the same. But he's now telling you that you feel better. And you're like, I do feel better. I mean, damn, if you're that easy to get manipulated, I can't wait to meet you at a bar. Anyways,
right.
You know, but that's really what happened with the glutes is someone was smart enough. And when I talk trash, I'm actually crediting someone because you said, oh, this is a problem. I'm going to create a solution and I'm going to cash in on it. That is, you know, that's capitalism at its finest.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a hell of a solution. There's been a lot of glutes out there nowadays.
But do you know what's funny is it's not, if you really break it down, it's not that efficient. Like if you want, I mean, when you really look at what will create the most bang for your buck in developing, like for example, wellness.
Yeah.
It's not just the glute. You need the whole leg.
Yeah.
Cool. Ass to ankles. Put a bar on your back of any sort.
Yeah.
All right. You're good to go. All right. Do it heavier.
Deadlifting.
Do it slower. Like that really is the secret. But you can, at the end of the day, no one wants to get under the bar. So it's a lot easier to just do a hip thrust and go, I'm chasing glutes. It's like deadlifting. Nobody really wants to deadlift. So just do another variation of a hammer row.
I will say this, that the hip thrust is an effective exercise in that it targets exactly what it's going after. Yeah. It's a great, so you know how we have a lot of evidence that the stretch loading is more hypertrophic than contraction loading.
Yeah.
Right. So this technically, squatting, stiff leg deadlifting, those are all stretch loaded exercises for the glutes. The hip thrust isn't excessively stretch loaded. You do get a pretty good range of motion, but it's a lot harder at the top in the contraction. Mm-hmm. So I see the hip thrust as a great, it's not technically an isolation movement because there's more than one joint movement.
But it is, yeah.
It's probably the best glute isolation movement you can do because it kicks the shit out of all the cable stuff and all the band work.
Oh yeah.
Like I think
but
if girls
put
are
in
doing
parentheses if done correctly, since that's also the
that's
lateral raise of glute movements. Like
lateral raise.
At my gym, I'm seeing girls put 4 plates aside on a Smith machine that weigh 107 pounds, and everything's moving that she can possibly move. And I want to walk over and put a quarter on and go, I'm going to destroy the sensation of your glutes. And tomorrow you won't be able to walk because I'm going to show you how to do this right. Like as soon as this head goes back, you're out of the game. You're already doing it wrong. I promise.
Yeah. I tell people their head shouldn't move. Their head and their chest shouldn't move. They should just be like still from here up almost. And it should just be the hips. But I think they're a great glute exercise, but I just don't think they're as revolutionary as, there were a lot of great, you could just add volume and the other things and you'd get an additional effect. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there is one of the studies I liked that was done with athletes that was interesting was they had this one group do, if I can remember correctly, had one group doing squats and one group doing hip thrusts. And they had them both do vertical jumps and sprints.
Okay.
So the group that did just the hip thrusts, they had a increase. Their sprint got faster, but their vertical jump didn't really go up that much. And then the group that was squatting, their vertical jump went up and their sprint increased less. You know what I mean? It was the opposite.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. It was like, just to see some athletes do those two different exercises, kind of shows exactly what you'd think. The forward drive would be from the glute, whereas the upward drive is mostly from the thighs. Right. So, yeah. Okay. I do some hip thrusts occasionally. We have a second leg day. We have a hamstring day. Well, Braden's, he's 4 weeks out. So he's doing a heavy working set of hip thrusts, after he does like stiff leg deadlifts and all that other stuff. But they're definitely not like the main focus exercise at all.
And he's been looking lean for a while. Like he's in shape.
He's almost ready.
We need to do and I'm going to put you on the spot, Ron, but maybe next week I would love to do a comparison of where he was a year ago and now and what created that change.
That'd be cool.
Because I think that would be a really cool thing that people don't get is listen, I love looking at Derek Lunsford and saying, holy shit, look what he did to his back in the last year. But none of us are Derek Lunsford. But when you see change like what Braden's done, it's like, listen, this is a guy who just grinds it every single day. And I think that's the stuff people need to look at because at the end of the day, what he's made his improvements on is grinding like from the day after his show last year or whenever it was to now. And then the changes that you guys have put on, like that I've seen over, like it's absurd.
It's pretty.
Those are jumps like pros where you go, what happened?
I think it's very impressive considering he has, absolute dog shit genetics and a terrible physique to begin with.
Just
and
garbage.
I hate his gym.
Oh, we're just attacking him for the gym now, right? Okay, cool. I was making sure.
I just threw that in to see if he ever listens to the show. He'll bring it up to me at the gym.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
when he leaves one plate.
I try not to give him too many compliments. I try to keep it a little bit. I don't want the head.
Well, just take all the credit for yourself. Like, well, I did that, and then you're all set. Without me, you're nothing. No, but I do think it would be an awesome thing to toss in there because it is impressive. Like we've all been in this a long time. I don't see a lot of like guys that are, I'm going to say on like my level as far as, genetics and everything else, where they make such a big jump. I go, whoa, what'd you do? And I know he's always worked hard. So I just feel like that's back to that cumulative effect where it's like, well, if you work hard for 6 months, you can get this. I can't remember who stated it first, but like that people overestimate what can be done in 3 months and underestimate what can be done in 3 years.
Absolutely.
Like because he's continued to do that, month after month, year after year. Now the jumps are getting bigger.
Yeah. So, the first show he did, he was like 205 on stage, right? And then the second show he did, he was like 210 on stage, right? It was 1 year later. So you're like, 5 pounds of stage weight with a little bit better condition. Yeah. But now this year, he's looking like he's going to be like 10 pounds heavier on stage with better conditions.
It's going to be harder for sure.
Yeah. So the rate picked up, but that's because you learn and then you apply what you've learned to make it better, like, there's certain things we did, like pull back on certain volume, increase other things, like that sort of thing. So, and the off season was almost the entire year was a cruise.
Right. No kidding.
And that I think that I've seen this with a bunch of people, not because I'm like telling them to do this, but just the way life is. Like they got this going on, this going on, this going on. So they wind up just doing like a 9-month cruise on like 200 tests a week. And then they go to start their next prep and the body just goes like an F1 car. And you're like, oh, this is really effective for some people. It can really work well because they're not all burned out on shit and their body's not all fried and they're not trying to recover from their off-season cycles. And, so there's a lot of that goes into like people need to realize that what's important is what you will yield on stage. Right. So you can do a bunch of crazy shit in off season and all that stuff. But if it doesn't equal more gains on the day of the show, like if you wind up over dieting all the crap out of yourself and you come right back down to what was your year for? And so that whole slow and steady wins the race attitude,
I was going to say too, just on the subject, since this show has just been random and we're just kind of running with it. This is why I will never understand why guys don't stay with their coaches. Number one, with one coach that works, but number two, year round. Because you guys were learning this together. And again, a lot of people, they spend a year with Ron and the next year they're 5 pounds up and they're a little leaner. And then they look at the year and they go, we didn't really do anything that special. I could probably save some money and do this on my own.
Yeah. Typical, like the cycle of all coaching. Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get the next year the 10-pound jump. Because you guys grinded it out together and, you watched the whole process. Like nothing, I'll be honest with you, most of my clients do not compete. Most of my clients, that's not their goal. But the clients I have that compete, they work with me year round. And that's why the expectation gets higher and higher because we do learn more and more. And I'll be into the second, third off season going, man, now this is interesting. And we're bringing something to the table. And I'm sure somebody who doesn't understand will go, why don't you know that by now? Well, number one, things change. But number two, it's an evolution that you're learning. So why guys will, number one, bounce around coach to coach drives me crazy. But definitely like, I'll come back at 12 weeks out, bring you whatever garbage I have to the table and say, bring me in, Ron. Thanks. I can't stress that enough because even Aceto, like he didn't like manage my off season the way that we do, but I sent him pictures every 7 to 10 days year round. And he would just be like, yeah, you might want to eat a little more, or, hey, you're fat as shit. You should probably do something about that. But that's the kind of stuff that I really think that guys need to look into because it's very obvious with a guy like Braden when you see those big jumps. It's like he's working on his next show all year.
Yeah, and another thing, the off-season body weight wasn't even higher than the previous off-season body weight. You know, so it's not like it's all about just piling up the scale off-season. It's what yields muscle later. So that's what's important.
Right. Like that.
Yeah.
We've got about enough time for one more question here, and I thought this was an important one, kind of completely different topic. Question for the next
this was
episode.
A good one.
I recently stopped listening to music / podcasts with headphones in the gym. Since this change, I have noticed more aggression and truly enjoyed training again. I never fell out of love with training, but it feels like when I first started. Has anyone on the show ever cycled off headphones for a reset?
No.
I wanted to point out one thing, but that has nothing to do with headphones. Don't listen to a podcast while you're training.
We have people that listen to our show while they're training.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Because here's the thing, like, and I'm being like, you don't ever sit. There's no absolutes. I hate absolutes. This is an absolute. Because you can't. If I'm engaging in this podcast and I'm listening to Ron, like I'm in this. I'm not in what I'm doing. I don't think people understand. You cannot do two things at one time. Literally impossible. So if you are listening to a podcast and enjoying Rogan tell a story, your intensity, your focus in that moment is drifting.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not locked into what you're doing. If you are listening to music that's keeping you in what you're doing, that's a totally different thing. So I'm kind of going a little off because I know his point is the headsets, but I just wanted to point that thing out because I see it often. Even guys who I think are awesome in the gym, I'll look over and I see them like scrolling Instagram. I'm like, oh, you're walking away from this workout right now, huh? Huh.
Yeah.
That is not this workout. Like, and it's not about being hardcore or anything like that. I'm just a firm believer. Like I will select music sometimes. Like today I trained alone because Nikki decided to take a break at a hospital, whatever. So I'm over there. I need a spot, right? Where are you? Laying in a hospital bed. Jeez. Anyways, we're not going to even answer what that is. We're just going to leave it as a terrible partner.
She's all right, though, right? She's okay.
As far as I know, I haven't been back. I'm kidding. No, but I mean, seriously. So I'm like, okay, the next set is going to be long. It's a triple drop. Okay. I'm going to back up 2 songs just to make sure I'm ready. Oh, it's been a minute and a half. Time to go. You know?
Right.
So it's all about that. So, but as far as the headphones, you don't train at the same gym as me if you can take those things off. Oof.
Well, yeah, I'm a little bit of an exception, and I totally understand that not everybody's like me, and
no one's like you. Go ahead.
I'm way I'm so far to the far end of being involved with my music when I listen to my headphones in the gym. Like I'm listening to the music. Like it's not just background noise. I'm like listening. So if we're walking from the leg press to the hack squat, I'm listening to the guitars, I'm listening to the drums, I'm listening to the music. Like, I'm right in the music. The music is almost a distraction from the pain and suffering in a way. Like it's like the solace I take. Like the music is awesome, so I can just put myself through whatever I have to put myself through. Like it doesn't matter. It's just the music's great, just whatever. If like if you're being tortured but they're playing good music, it makes the torture a little bit
like the
more
dentist
fair.
Office. You know?
Yeah, like a dentist's office. If we played good music at the dentist, it wouldn't be as bad. You know what I mean? So I'm sort of like that with the music. And you might think like, oh, you're distracted by the music, but it's a real source of energy. Like I'm really driven by it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this fucking song's coming on. Here we go. And that's how I think. That's in my head. That stuff's in my head. I'm mumbling to myself the whole time. You know?
Air guitar to the rest of us, though. I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I accidentally do that. I'm trying to cut back, but especially, you know what I mean? I look like a psycho, but yeah, I'm like really, really into the music, and occasionally I'll train with my headphones out because our gym plays good music.
Yeah,
so if something's on if something's playing that I really like, sometimes I'll pull my headphones out for a few songs and I'll just train without them. But for the most part, I need music blasting. That's like an absolute requirement. Like I'm the type of guy that's gotten to the gym and not had headphones. So I've gone back out, got my car, drove to the store, bought headphones, went back to the gym to train. Like I've
done that.
Not training without headphones. Like under any circumstances, I do not think I trained without headphones ever once while I was bodybuilding.
Do you know that Ron also uses wired headphones?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like them too. I like the wire.
I'm not losing I can't do the buds. I see people, they fall out of people's ears and land on the floor. And you know what I think about
Here we go.
Like,
that's right next to their phone that's on the floor.
Yeah, so I saw a guy's earbud falls out, hits the floor. He just picks it up, puts it back in his ear. I'm like, oh, hello, ear infection. Here we go.
Ear infection. Yeah. What's on your floor at the gym?
Yeah.
Well, who
Why
knows?
your floor's so dirty?
Well, someone comes out of the pisser and walks right past you, and your earphone falls right where their foot was, so now your earphone has
never had
piss
somebody
on it.
piss in your ear before?
Yeah, you piss in the ear, never hurt anybody. You know,
God.
What are you so worried about? A little piss in the air. Your granddad wouldn't have worried about a little piss in the air, right?
Hair on your chest.
Yeah.
I went through a phase with no headphones. I remember watching Jay's videos, and Jay would just go to the gym, and there was like some just top 40 shit playing. You know what I mean? At like those Gold's gyms at 3 a.m., you know, in Vegas. And he's just sitting there,
vacuuming.
You see him just like kind of staring off in between sets, and there's just like, you know, I can't even remember what music was playing, but back. Yeah, exactly. And he's like busting out a hard workout, doesn't even face him. I was like, yeah. And I did that for a while, listening to those same songs. And then I realized if you go to tan, then you'd go tanning and the same music would be playing there. So I knew all those songs, though I didn't know who the singers were or anything like that.
But you know every word now.
You know, not really. I just knew the beats and the voices. You know what I mean? I knew the sounds of it because I never really actually listened. But I did that for a while, the Jay Cutler style workout.
I'm a single bud in my ear.
Oh,
the whole workout, so that I can talk to my partner, hear them. But then when it's time for like my heavy set, the other one goes in. And then as soon as I'm done, I take it back out, because I do like to be able, like, even on warm-ups or when I'm talking to them, I hear them. But then, for the working set, it goes in and then right back out. And that's just become like normal, which is funny because when I first started doing it, it bothered me. I'm like, I can hear the people and the music. This is not good for me. Yeah. But I eventually adapted, which, by the way, our gym sold to someone new, so I'm gonna have new equipment someday, like a real gym.
Oh, okay. Nice. What gym do you train at? I can't remember what it's called.
I train at a Gold's, but it was owned by corporate, and now they've just been purchased by a guy who owns like 4 or 5 other gyms in North Carolina, and I believe he just bought 6 clubs from corporate all at once.
Wow!
Is he going to keep them Golds? Because I know corporate sold a bunch of theirs.
Yeah, I think because I think all of his are Golds, so it'll stay Golds to my knowledge. But like, they're doing like what real gyms do in the States, at least, which is key cards. So it's going to go to 24 hours. Oh, nice. The music is already louder, and they've took off like the terrible music. It's more just like dance music, whatever. I don't care. It's just like a high beat, so it's fine. And there's apparently a list of equipment coming.
Nice.
And our gym desperately needs equipment, so I'm pretty stoked. And the day that they were first there was the first day I decided to do RDLs with 6 plates again, and no one yelled at me, so I guess we're fine.
Oh, that's nice.
Good.
That's nice.
I was like, I'm right up in front too. I was like, well, I'm gonna find out today if I still have a membership. Here we go.
Yeah.
Put the platforms right by the front desk.
Yeah. It's a test.
I don't know if I told you guys this, but it was like about a month ago. Sometimes I get in the mood, well, now we got like Apple Music and Spotify, right? So like, you're not limited by like your music collection.
Used to be like, I don't have that CD, so I can't hear that,
So I'm trying, like, people always send me because, people sort of send me music on Instagram. A lot of our viewers, a lot of you guys have sent me clips like, hey, check this band out. Anyways, I remember what Henry Rollins said about how he trains to ballads.
Oh, yeah.
They're very emotional, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I get
very
that.
emotional.
I get that.
Right? And I thought, I've never tried that. And I was kind of like having a bored music day. Like, I think it was Shoulders or something. I'm like, I don't need should try something. So I pulled up on Apple Music. I pulled up like classic rock guitar ballads. It was like a 25 song playlist, had like, Born or Wanted Dead or Alive on it, and November Rain, and like just all the classic like 80s 90s guitar ballads, anything that would bring a tear to the eye while the guitar's wailing on solo. And I threw that on, and I had a fantastic workout.
Yeah, you could dig deep with some of that. You know what I mean?
Dig deep.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some scars in there.
Yeah.
There's
Open
some
them back up.
Bring them out. Those, Def Leppard Love Bites came on, and I remember slow dancing in grade 8. With my hands, maybe kind of trying to touch the top of the butt with the pinkies. You're kind of stretching them.
Just south. You were tall. That was easier for me.
And the heartbreak, that grade 9 heartbreak. Oh, it hurt so bad. I could get 2 more fucking reps. It was really in there. It was good. It was full circle, gentlemen.
That's nice.
Full circle. Yeah.
I'm glad we're finishing.
I recommend it. I recommend everyone try it just once.
If there's anything about being married that isn't necessarily what I would prefer, it's our music situation in the basement. I will say that now. I'm not training as hard as I used to, obviously. Like, I was literally hitting literally my most intense sets before I had gotten sick. And at the time, I was stuck here by myself due to circumstances. She couldn't cross the border. But I had
the old days, we call them.
Yeah, the terrible old days, I have a decent stereo system that used to be hooked up to the TV with like the Bose certified, the Lucas certified 6.1 surround Bose speakers and the subwoofer and all that. And let me tell you, I could turn that shit up so loud. You would think there was a rave party going on in the house. And I understand I can't do that with another human being in the house. Because although I'm in the basement, like literally you'd hear it from the road. Like I had it cranked that loud. And then if I had to scream while I'm training, like my screams were probably the volume of that. Like I don't know what people thought next door, but there was some crazy shit going on from about like 1 o'clock to 2:30, somewhere in there every other day on that protocol. I can't do that anymore. So I got to put the headphones on. And sometimes she still says she hears the music, even though it's in the headphones. So I think I like to crank it pretty good. But it was so perfect, man, with those speakers down here. The windows were shaking upstairs.
But does the loud music disturb her PhD mind?
Yeah.
What's going on?
She wouldn't be able to even talk or listen to a video or anything. I mean, so I can respect that. But
she should be downstairs filming your sets.
Yeah.
Not worried about a PhD. Get that for the gram.
I believe you need to shift the narrative.
Yeah.
I'll help you.
It's all about the words we use, right, Ron?
Yeah, it's all about the words. The story we tell with our words, Scott. That's what paints the reality for others.
Okay, I see.
I feel like Scott's really painting like what a great husband he is. As per me, like, oh, you're still in the hospital. Cool. I got to go hit chest and then I'll be back. Yeah. It's just not quite the same situation.
So is she going to catch an Uber home from the hospital or what?
No, she drove herself. Man shit.
Oh, she drove herself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was the whole thing. Well, hey, listen, it's funny because I was telling her, I was like, I would feel guilty if this isn't how you are. Because like yesterday, she goes, yeah, I'm going to wait one more day because her temperature's real high. She goes, and I think if I'm still not feeling good tomorrow, I'll go in. And I go, well, why don't you just go in now? And she's like, yeah, I probably should. I'm like, you want me to go? She goes, nah, it's right down the road. Just go hit legs. If I need anything, I'll call you. I'm like, well, I'm not a doctor. Call them. And I went to the gym.
You're going to the hospital. I'm just going to leave it with them.
Yeah. So I go to the gym though. This is what's great though. I go to the gym and I'm finished up my workout and I look and we have that Life 360 with the kids. So everyone's like, on lock. I'm like, she's still at the hospital. I text her. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, they're admitting me for the day. I'm like, well, now I feel like a dick.
Where's your husband? Oh, he's at the gym doing legs.
Yeah. So it gets worse. I come to the gym. I come into the hospital like sweating. I still got my dirty clothes on from the gym. I'm like, hey, I'm the guy who had better things to do. How's things?
She alive?
Yeah. She alive or should I call the insurance company?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that would have been something if she was in a coma. Hey, wouldn't that have been a turn of events?
Yeah, happened there. But here, but on the other end of the spectrum, you got good old Scott. I don't want to disrupt her with the music.
I get it. Down. I get it.
You're a good man. You're a good man, Scott. I'm trying to get your point. Just listen. Shh.
Thanks, Dusty.
I'll blow out my own ears with this headphones blaring so that you aren't disrupted.
Oh my God. Yeah, it used to be so loud though. Like seriously. I was waiting for one of the neighbors to call the cops or something because everybody was still home at that time. People didn't go to work, but they really probably thought there was like a rave party happening in the basement here. It was good times.
Right. How many people are in your house?
Just me. All covered in sweat. I did have a telemarketer, door-to-door sales guy come. And I had issues with this one company, Magic Window was their name. And I talked to one of their guys and he was a real dick and I told him to get out of my house. Well, they came knocking and I was doing deadlifts downstairs. And I came upstairs like covered in sweat, my straps are on. I was like, hi, how can I help you? You know, middle of the workout, the music's still blasting down there. And he was like, hi, I'm from Magic Window. And I was like, I told you people not to bother me anymore. I can't remember how the rest of the conversation went, but he was like, oh, yeah, I'm really sorry. You know, have a nice day.
You want to come into my basement right now?
Yeah. See, the average person doesn't know what straps are. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, what's going on here? Like, you know, I love
veins. You know,
I love how your image doesn't match what's in a house.
Yeah,
right. It's like no one has a gym in there. Like your gym in your home gym is like ridiculous, right? But like to see a guy like, you know, boat neck shirt, traps sticking up, soaking wet, covered in sweat, straps on, hat backwards,
your shoulder, multiple.
Wow, what can I help you with?
Let's not forget about the amount of weapons that you could probably see over your shoulder.
I'm
good, sir. I'm good. We don't need magic.
Are you packing when you're deadlifting?
Not at home. No, not at home.
How many feet away is your nearest weapon?
Probably several, but that's just like by circumstance. It's not like I better leave it here
for anyone asking.
Yeah, it's not like I've got to leave it here in case. It's just, you know, happenstance because I happen to be in the house. You know.
Hey, you guys, remember I was at my friend's house and I showed you his gun safe? I sent you that video.
Yes, that was wicked,
and it was like
man.
Unbelievable. And then and then when he put everything away, I go, "Well, you got all your guns in here?" He goes, "No, not quite." And then he just reaches under the kitchen table and just pulls one out and puts it on the table. And he's like, "Always ready." There's one in the hallway. There's one hidden in the main hallway, and there's one in the bedroom.
Well, what are they going to do for you? You know, if they're in a case all locked up.
Right? Yeah. And so
1 second.
So I looked under the table because I was thinking, like, you know, you see movies and there's like a holster bolted to the underside of the table or something, right? I look under, he's just got a magnet, this big round magnet.
Oh yeah.
And it's just this flat little magnet, and the gun just sticks to it, and he just pops it out, puts it on the table. He's like, "We're always ready, always ready."
I love it.
I love it. You Americans,
I don't do that because I have Yorkies.
Yeah. They'll buy you time.
Yeah. I went down a rabbit hole the other day of people defending their homes on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Some amazing videos, man. Like those doorbell cameras they catch some crazy shit.
Oh yeah.
You know, and some of the comments just blow me away.
Yeah, they feel bad for the person that just got fucked up.
Didn't have to shoot him.
Right.
Like, guy had a machete and he was kicking the front door down.
Right. Should have just given him what he wanted.
Yeah, crazy. I saw an amazing, you know, those street interviews where they ask people, like, you know, they set them up to look like idiots.
Yeah.
And
I ask them basic questions.
Yeah, and then this one woman is like, "There's no reason to have a gun. There's no reason." And he goes, "Okay, well, let me just paint a fictional situation. What if there's 5 men home invading your house, and it's you and your husband at home with the kids? Do you want your husband to have a gun?" She goes, "Well, no." And he goes, "But there's 5 of them." She goes, "Yeah, but we don't know that they're violent. They're just robbing us." And he's like, "But you don't know that." She's like, "Yeah, but that's most likely what they just want. They're probably poor, so they need things."
Just stuff, yeah. And they really care. They have the same. Here's the thing: they don't have the same concern about. They don't care about your life the way you care about your life. That's what my concern is.
It led me to, like that. I mean, I always knew this, but just that final conclusion where some people, there's a lot of people now that have absolutely, like, I grew up, born in 75. We had playground scraps. We had bar fights. We had all that stuff. And I just feel like there's a certain genre of person now that has never been exposed to violence, and they don't realize what violence is. They think words are violence. First of all, these are the same people that think words are equal to violence because they've never experienced real violence. They have no idea what people are capable of.
Yeah.
And when I watch those videos, man, I just think these people are the easiest, most pathetic prey you could possibly have. Like, I can't imagine living in that reality. How unsafe they constantly are blows me away.
Yeah.
And
then it's okay. They're welcome to live that way as long as they don't force their ideas on me. You know what I mean?
But they vote. They vote.
Yeah.
You know what's weird though is and it's been said a million times, but it's true, is violence is the only universal language.
Everyone
understands it. Once it gets down to that, and it's it's that old thing. It's you just need to be prepared and capable. That's all, and hope that you never have to. Yeah. The hope, if you're a normal human, is that you never have to use your gun in your house.
Yeah,
because
no one ever wants to,
but you don't want to wish you had it.
Yeah.
When the five guys come in and, it's that's the thing that's so weird to me. Like, even when you put that in numbers, it's like, listen, I don't want to find out that they're violent.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather they exit stage right as soon as they walk in and go, oh,
this is
we picked the wrong house. These are Yorkies and a gun.
Yeah. It's one of the things he said to her. He said, well, what if they kill your husband and then they rape you?
Yeah.
And she goes, oh my goodness. What an extreme example.
Yeah. Oh, this never happened before.
He's like, 5 men home invading your house is an extreme thing. Like, where are you in your reality?
Yeah.
I started with that, and that didn't strike you as weird all by itself.
Yeah. There's that huge disconnect, and it's part of the problem with this entire conversation. It blows me away.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's one thing we don't want to do on this show is we don't want to shelter you. We want to give you the real talk.
And I'm sure if somebody did have something to protect them in that situation, had it happen, they would be really grateful that their lives were, spared. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That same person, it's easy to say things like that and stand behind your stance, whatever your stance is, when you're just having a conversation on a camera.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. Was that it, fellas? Did we talk about a single thing bodybuilding related?
We talked about a lot of good bodybuilding stuff, actually.
Yeah, there was a lot of posing. Remember, you got really mad. You went dark, so you don't remember.
Yeah. Lunsford, posing. You blacked out. It's okay.
I blacked out about the posing.
It's good. Great. We got a clip in there.
Good moment for Scott.
Yeah,
good moment for Scott.
I felt good about that.
Why? I didn't mean to cause another clip.
It's just every time, like, this is right up to this. I mean, there are guys so afraid to not be split to the hip now. Wait till you see how high people's chests get after this.
Yeah, that's the split to the hip thing. I was at first I was like, oh, here we go, and then I still get people. This guy just tagged me the other day. He's like 2 weeks out, split to the hips. I'm like, okay, it's stuck. Yeah. This is awesome.
RP.
Yeah. So fantastic. Okay. Don't do things that make you look worse, even if it's for 1 second while you're setting up a pose.
Fact.
Remember, you're always being looked at. So don't go into a dumb position to get into a good position. Don't do that. Right? You don't want a girl to see you in a weird position where your dick looks small. You always want it to look good. You got to walk around with the hips out, chest back, right? You're not going to walk around like hunched over like this at all. Just think about it. Come on. Use your brains. It all translates. Angle game. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about that. You take the picture from here. Yeah,
lean back. Lean back.
Lean back. Lean back. You pull it away from the body. Just all that stuff. You know.
Not that I've ever done that. Anyways.
No. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
There you go. And remember, IamMutant.com. Hit up IamMutant.com. Get your ISO surge. Get your all in. And everyone should get on the gear. Remember, Think Big Bodybuilding Media, Patreon, or is it network? I keep screwing it up.
It's media. Yeah, just media.
Think Big Bodybuilding Media. Keep a producer homed. It's awesome. We really appreciate, of course, Patreon get priority questions when we do those shows, and the YouTube comments are where we pull everything else from. So thank you very much for all your feedback. Last couple of shows went crazy, guys. We had really good views on last week's shows. So we really appreciate everyone. And very good. Did you use Chat GPT to generate the episode titles? Those were good.
No, I didn't. But I do. I look at Chat GPT. They can be helpful. I got to get better at that, though, to make it work for our advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. It can help. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding. Pecs up!